The disappearance of Maddie McCann. Update on German suspect. Madeleine Beth McCann, born May 12, 2003, disappeared on the evening of May 3, 2007 from her bed in a holiday apartment at a resort in Praia da Luz, in the Algarve region of Portugal. Her whereabouts remain unknown. The Daily Telegraph described the disappearance as the most heavily reported missing person case in modern history. Madeleine was on holiday from the UK with her parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, her 2-year-old twin siblings, and a group of family friends and their children. She and the twins had been left asleep at 20:30 in the ground floor apartment, while the McCanns and friends dined in a restaurant 55 meters, 180 feet, away. The parents checked on the children throughout the evening, until Madeleine's mother discovered she was missing at 2200 hours. Over the following weeks, particularly after misinterpreting a British DNA analysis, the Portuguese police came to believe that Madeleine had died in an accident in the apartment and that her parents had covered it up. The McCanns were given arguido suspect status in September 2007, which was lifted when Portugal's Attorney General archived the case in July 2008 for lack of evidence. Latoya Natasha Thomas. When black women go missing, the silence can be deafening. Missing from Hayward, California since September 30, 2000. Latoya Natasha Thomas, 25 years old at the time of her disappearance, was last seen driving away from her Riverside Terrace apartment complex on the 1700 block of B Street in Hayward, California around 10:30 p.m. on September 30, 2000. Her boyfriend, Nathan Noel, was following closely behind her in his car. About half an hour earlier, she was seen doing laundry by the manager of the complex. Earlier in the evening, she was in San Francisco where she attended a birthday party thrown by coworkers in her honor as she had turned 25 a few days earlier. She left the party and headed home around 8 p.m. that Saturday night, stopping a few blocks from her home to get cash at the Providence Central Credit Union on Foothill Boulevard near downtown Hayward. She was supposed to pick up her 4-year-old daughter from Nathan's mother's home the next day. She never picked up her daughter and has not been seen since. Nathan reported her missing on October 3. Latoya's gray 1986 Mazda 626 was found unlocked on October 4 by a BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit, employee on the 900 block of B Street. Her purse and driver's license were in the front seat of the car. Hayward Police Sergeant Gary Branson noted the department was quite concerned for her. This is very suspicious and out of character for her, but stated there is no evidence of a crime so far. In 2007, Nathan was a suspect in the murder of his girlfriend, Lee Akins. Police responded to a shooting at an apartment complex where Lee was pronounced dead at the scene. A day later, Nathan was later shot and killed by police when he fired a .45 caliber revolver at the officers when they tracked him down and approached him in a restaurant. Police believed this to be the same gun that was used to kill Lee. Recalling Latoya's disappearance, Hayward Lieutenant Reed Lindblom stated the department had interviewed Nathan several times but never had any indication he had anything to do with her being a homicide victim. In fact, they couldn't really establish that it was a homicide, as there were no signs of foul play. Latoya's disappearance was classified as a missing person case under suspicious circumstances, with Lieutenant Lindblom highlighting the department does not have enough facts to determine if Latoya is a homicide victim or dead. Nathan was never named as a suspect, but the disappearance was highly suspicious. Regarding the case, Lieutenant Lindblom stated it's going to be open until we have some sense that it's not open anymore. Questions. I could not find any information on what Nathan stated during his several police interviews. He appears to be the last person to have seen her, and it is highly probable that he had something to do with her disappearance. It is also unclear why he was following her in his car. I could not find an explanation, but some articles surmise that it would not have aroused suspicion, as they would have looked like they were both going to his mother's home to pick up her daughter. The links below are the few primary source news articles I found regarding Latoya's disappearance. The last link has an update from Leah's cousin which she provided to a blog last month, but I did not include any of the information in the post itself as I could not be sure it was actually Leah's cousin or if any of the information mentioned was provided to police. The body of Andrea Bowman, missing since 1989, was found in February 2020. 2 weeks ago her adoptive father was charged with murder. Didn't see any recent updates on this case, so thought I'd make a post. This case really bothers me and I'm glad justice has finally been served. The accused, Dennis Bowman, is a real sack of shit. From WWMT, the Allegan County prosecutor said Friday, May 15, 2020, Dennis Lee Bowman was charged with open murder, felony murder, first-degree child abuse and mutilation of a body related to the death of Andrea Michelle Bowman. In November 2019, Dennis Bowman was taken into custody by Virginia police for charges related to a 1980 homicide of 25-year-old Kathleen Noyle in Norfolk, Virginia. 3 months later, on February 4, 2020, law enforcement found skeletal remains in the 3200 block of 136th Avenue of Monterey Township, near the home of Bowman. The remains were identified as Andrea Bowman. According to this article, Dennis Bowman has said he plans to plead guilty for the murder in Virginia. He is also being looked at for the 1989 kidnapping and attempted rape of a young girl in Michigan. Obviously everything is on hold because of COVID, so there hasn't been a ton of information. I feel awful for Andrea's biological mother. She has spent the last 30 years certain that Bowman killed her daughter and is only now seeing justice. Charlie Project states that Andrea had accused Dennis of molesting her. Adoption is supposed to give kids a better life, but this good-for-nothing piece of trash just used it to find a victim. I am inclined to believe that he committed other crimes, whether they be murders or sexual assaults. If Andrea Bowman's name is familiar, it may be because she was looked at as possibly being the Racine County Jane Doe. In November, Peggy Johnson was identified as the RCJD. Second edit. Thanks for all the responses. I love hearing other people's thoughts. I am continuing to follow this case and will post another update as necessary. There is a ton of backstory and other info on the Find Andrea Bowman Facebook page. Terrence Williams missing since January 12, 2004 from Naples, Florida. If you are decent, human, kind person with a soul, I don't know how you can't be upset. These two people were put in the back of a sheriff's car, disappeared, and have not been seen for 14 years. On January 12, 2004, Collier County Deputy Stephen Culkin stopped 27-year-old Terrence Williams, who was in his vehicle in a cemetery parking lot in the area of 111th Avenue North and Vanderbilt Drive in Naples, Florida. Deputy Culkins later told investigators he saw Terrence in an older white Cadillac that appeared to be having some problems. However, initially, he reported the car as abandoned, saying no one was around. Deputy Culkins used his work-issued cell phone to contact dispatcher Dave Jolicoeur to run the VIN number of the Cadillac to confirm who owned it. In a taped conversation, the two men talked in an exaggerated black dialect about the car. Culkins: "What the F underscore are you doing?" Jolicoeur: "What are you doing, sucka?" Culkins: "Well, I got a homie Cadillac on the side of the road here, signal 11, signal 52, nobody around. Maybe he's out there in the cemetery. He'll come back and his car will be gone." Jolicoeur: "Alright." Culkins: "The tag comes back to nothing, it's a big old white piece of junk Cadillac, I'm towing it." Jolicoeur: "You tow it, baby, give me the VIN number." Culkins: "It's gonna come back to one of the brothers in Fort Myers." There was no registration for the car, and Deputy Culkins noted that's a hell of a deal, it's a Holmes car. Dispatcher Jolicoeur later explained the banter away by saying they were using language from the Dirty Harry movie Sudden Impact, which was an ongoing thing between the two men, and they unfortunately got caught on tape this time. In a later version told to investigators, Deputy Culkin said Terrence asked him for a ride to the Circle K at Wiggins Pass Road where he worked, as he was concerned about losing his job. Deputy Culkins later said he agreed to take Terrence since he was very clean-cut. Outside of his long dreadlocks, he seemed to be a very clean young man, very respectful of me and very well-spoken. Accordingly, he says he drove him to the Circle K and mentioned that his license tag was expired and did not arrest him for driving without a driver's license. Terrence told him he had a valid registration and receipt in his glove compartment. Deputy Culkin said he left the Circle K and drove back to the Cadillac and checked the glove compartment but found it empty. Feeling duped, he says he called the Circle K on his work-issued cell phone and the clerk told him there was no Terrence that worked there. Terrence grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. His mother, Marcia Buggs, remembers him being fastidious about his appearance to the point of ironing his t-shirts, saying he liked to look good. He worked in the construction field and had 4 children. While in Tennessee, he had legal troubles due to owing child support and spent 55 days in jail for a DUI charge. Afterwards, he decided to move to Florida to be closer to his mother and work on turning his life around. He worked at Pizza Hut and shared an apartment with a roommate. Marcia recalls Terrence called her daily and spent Sundays with her, which is why she was so worried when he did not call her on the Monday he disappeared. She followed up with his roommate and tried not to worry, but when he did not call by Wednesday, she realized he's not coming back. She tracked down Terrence's Cadillac and noted the tow report was signed by Deputy Culkins. Marcia contacted workers at the cemetery who told her that they witnessed Deputy Culkins pulling Terrence over and later putting him in the back of his patrol car. Driving off with Terrence, Deputy Culkins asked the employees if he could leave the Cadillac in the parking lot. Deputy Culkins was later witnessed returning to the cemetery and moving the car from the parking spot to the side of the road. The car keys were found on the ground beside the car. 4 days after Terrence's disappearance, Deputy Culkins claimed to remember nothing about Terrence or the driver. Unidentified female: I hate to bother you on your day off, but this woman's been calling us all day. You towed a car from Vanderbilt and 111th on Monday, a Cadillac. Do you remember it? Culkins: no. Unidentified female: do you remember? She said it was near the cemetery. Culkins: cemetery? Unidentified female: the people at the cemetery are telling her you put somebody in the back of your vehicle and arrested him, and I don't show you arresting anybody. Culkins: I never arrested nobody. Investigators found quite a few issues with Deputy Culkins' account. Signal 11 is indicative of an abandoned car, yet his later statements to investigators indicated Terrence was driving when he stopped him. A check of the deputy's cell phone records never showed a call being placed to the Circle K, and no one at the Circle K remembered receiving a call from him. When questioned, Deputy Culkins simply stated, "I don't know what to tell you." Security cameras did not show Terrence at Circle K either. Deputy Culkins also called a second dispatcher later and gave Terrence's date of birth and asked for a background check, thus contradicting an earlier statement that he happened upon an abandoned car. He would not have been able to glean a date of birth since the car had no registration. The birth date given to the second dispatcher was not Terrence's real birth date, but a fake one Terrence would use at times, so only Terrence would know that date of birth and nobody else would. Investigators gave Deputy Culkins 3 lie detector tests. One of the questions failed, asked after you dropped Terrence at the Circle K, "Did you have any further contact with him?" To which he replied, "No." Most damning, just months earlier the department had heard the same story from Deputy Culkins about another missing man, 23-year Felipe Santos, who vanished on October 14, 2003 after Deputy Culkins responded to the scene of a minor accident involving Felipe. He also dropped off Felipe at a Circle K. Investigators called the combination of the two vanished men a coincidence in the extreme. Collier County Sheriff's Department searched his patrol car but did not find any clues, calling it immaculate. They also searched swampy areas in Naples where one could dump a body. Investigators also placed a tracking device on his vehicle in case he ever visited the spot where Terrence's body might have been dumped. He never did. However, his home was never searched because, according to investigators, they did not have the evidence needed for a search warrant. The department has since changed some policies, such as requiring deputies to inform dispatch when they are transporting someone in their patrol cars. Although noting the circumstances surrounding Terrence's disappearance as suspicious, the sheriff's office recognized that Terrence was due in Tennessee court 2 days after his disappearance for his child support case and pointed to it as a possible factor in the disappearance. Deputy Culkins was eventually fired for lying about the case, including deception on a lie detector test, for conduct unbecoming an officer by using pejorative language, and for being negligent in not following agency rules and procedures. In a May 2005 news interview, Deputy Culkins said he did not know if these guys are missing. "I don't know anything about it," calling it bad luck and fate that he was fired. A wrongful death lawsuit was filed in August 2018. The lawsuit contends Terrence is dead and claims Deputy Culkins is responsible for his death. Florida law states people are presumed dead if they have not been home for at least 5 years and their absences cannot be explained by investigations. Ben Crump, the civil rights attorney who also represented the family of Trayvon Martin, said the legal filing was the culmination of more than a decade of investigative work with the cooperation of the Collier County Sheriff's Office, and it would compel Deputy Culkins to explain his actions in a formal deposition. The suit did not set an amount for any damages. Marcia said she filed the lawsuit so she could get answers for Terrence's 4 children. The lawsuit was announced in a September 2018 press conference where actor and producer Tyler Perry was also present. He offered a $200,000 reward in the case, highlighting that it was being increased from $100,000 offered previously since no information was yielded. John Hooley, who represented Deputy Culkins, argued that the suit should be dismissed based on statutory law and he would not present evidence relating to the case at the hearing. A judge dismissed the lawsuit in June 2019 but gave the plaintiffs 20 days to file another amended complaint. Attorney Hooley argued that a statute of limitations for wrongful death complaints alleging murder or manslaughter applied since the complaint stated that intentional tortious actions against Terrence occurred in 2004. In 2010, the Jeffrey Clay Memorial Act removed the statute of limitations in wrong death complaints. The estate's attorneys argued that the act does not apply in the present suit because the complaint is a new cause of action that did not exist in 2004. It is unclear if the motion was amended within the requisite 20 days. Terrence remains missing. Marcia feels Terrence is not alive because he would have had somebody contact her saying, "I know for sure that's one that he would do in a heartbeat, call his mama." Deputy Culkins now resides in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Terrence is described as black, 5 feet 8 inches tall and 160 pounds with brown eyes and brown hair. He has several tattoos, a T above his left chest, ET on his right shoulder, and Terrence in red with blue highlights on his left forearm. He has a gold crown with the letter T on the upper right tooth, and the other upper front tooth is solid gold. He also has a vertical scar on his right shoulder and a dark birthmark on the right side of his abdomen. He was last seen wearing a short-sleeve shirt, blue jeans and brown Timberland boots. He was wearing diamond earrings and a watch with a silver band. The face of the watch was surrounded by white stones. At the time he disappeared, he owned a 1984 white Cadillac. Questions. A popular theory regarding Terrence's disappearance is the Starlight Tour theory, which originated in Saskatchewan, Canada, and describes the practice of police driving individuals to the edge of town or outside of city limits and abandoning them to find their own way home. Such drop-offs have occurred since the 1970s and came into focus in 2000, with Indigenous men in Canada being subjected to the practice. Daryl Knight reported being picked up by police after leaving a party and driven outside of town and dropped off in a rural area in freezing conditions. He survived after finding a nearby power plant staffed by a security guard. The next morning, another man, Rodney Nastis, was found frozen to the ground near where Daryl was dropped off. Lawrence Wigner, also Indigenous, was found deceased weeks later in the same area. Some believe that Terrence was dropped off in the nearby Everglades and died of exposure or other dangers.